Good evening, St. Louis City, and welcome to the City Central postgame on STL Sports Central. I'm Matthew Rocchio. That is Tito. That is Tito Ulrich, and we are here talking about an actual victory for St. City SC. This time, it's a 2-0 victory over Montreal. It's the first time they've ever played Montreal up in Quebec. First time they played them overall, I should say, and they walk away with a victory. We know, Tito, that away games in Canada usually spell some kind of disaster for St. Louis City SC. So the fact that they actually got a win tonight, I think your appearance on this postgame show might have scared them straight and helped them get this 2-0 victory. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, they didn't want me to hold them accountable, Rock, and it's an absolute pleasure to be on with a local here in St. Louis. The St. Joan of Arc gym has the name Matt Rocchio on the baseball banner, so it's a pleasure to be here. But absolutely rock star performance by City tonight at the home of the Montreal Screwjob. For any of you guys that are WWE fans, they went into Montreal, took care of business, and Rocchio got the clean slate that we were so accustomed to early in the season, and finally got to see another one of those today. So absolute rock star performance. Call me crazy, Rock, but I think we might have a shot at the postseason. You never know if they can just get hot and they can win the final 8 or 9 games. You never know what might happen in MLS.
They have staved off elimination at least for one more day. There is one permutation. If the Rapids beat the Houston Dynamo tomorrow, that would eliminate St. Louis City SC unless the Earthquakes pull off a miracle and come back from their deficit against the LAFC tonight. We will have one more night of not being eliminated from the playoffs. And again, City gets themselves a little help with the win. We have some people jumping into the chat, and please, here on St. Louis Sports Central, we're always taking your chats during these games. Jump in, make sure you like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. Eggplant emoji, 3 points on the road is 3 points on the road. Was this a more complete performance than when they defeated Nashville? I'll throw this one to you out of the gate, Tito.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Nashville performance was a lot more unique and a lot better. This one was it didn't look like Montreal wanted to be out there on the pitch tonight, in my opinion. It looked like a bunch of CYC players playing, and City was just kind of taking care of business. But I definitely think the Nashville performance was a lot better and a lot more crisp, and it was two teams actually trying to win.
Yeah, I think the Nashville performance is always going to take the cake because they're a top team that was still playing for something when that game rolled around, especially when that game rolled around. Montreal is one of the 2 teams in MLS that has already been eliminated from the playoffs, at least one of the 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that has already been completely eliminated from the playoffs. So, what are they really playing for? They had a big debut tonight, or not debut, the first ever start for Von Jaime, their new designated player from the summer window. So they had some big moments there. They got one of their 19-year-olds who didn't start the game. They got him in a little bit later. So, they're working through their own thing up in Montreal through another bad season. They're trying to get new players involved. That's their thing. So I'm with you too. It wasn't a dominant performance. There weren't huge stretches where St. Louis City controlled the ball, and you want to see them do that against a team that's already been eliminated from the playoffs. The big Fallu Fall moments where he shut down Mukhtar in that Nashville game, those moments are really hard to beat for St. Louis City SC. I loved the goal from Conrad Vollum. He's probably not going to be here next year, so not a lot to roll with. But so let's focus on the bigger moments, which was Edward Leuven had a fantastic game. Marcel Hartl had a fantastic game, including the second goal. João Klaus also had a fantastic game. The big players stepped up, and that's how you walk away with a big win.
Yeah, and the unselfishness from Klaus, especially later in the game, trying to get other players involved, trying to get them on the score sheet. That's definitely good to see, especially from performers like that.
And Eric Sontag, your good friend, our good friend here on STL Sports Central. A clean sheet on the road. Who is this beautiful imposter, and what have you done with my crummy soccer team? Happy to lose money tonight. I can't blame Eric for taking the Montreal to probably score a little bit. The last time that St. Louis City SC shut out an MLS team was on April 19th in a 0-0 draw against the Vancouver Whitecaps. Ben Lunt was still in goal for that match, which means you have to go all the way back to the 3rd match of the season to get a Roman Berkey clean sheet. Absolutely insane. No one should have bet that St. Louis City was going to get a clean sheet tonight. No one can blame you on that one, Eric.
Yeah, no, it's a fraud like Eric would keep hammering a bet like that over and over again just to prove the fans and like Tito prove us wrong. I was actually optimistic about City tonight. I actually thought they were actually going to pull off 3 points, and I'll tip my cap and I'll dust my cap a little bit and throw Hosannas at my own feet.
There you go. And you know what? I mean, here's the thing, though. If Eric if you started betting St. Louis City to allow a goal way back on October 27th and just rolled it over for the last 2 or 3 months, you'd be really angry today. Or about 7 hours ago, you'd be sitting pretty on easy street because they never were able to shut down teams. And they didn't necessarily shut down Montreal either. Let's give some credit to Montreal as well. They're a team that presses high, so they're going to give up moments behind them, but they created some moments with the press. There were 2 or 3 moments where they turned St. Louis City over, and they had a really dangerous moment. Berkey had to get 3 big saves. Fall had to save a ball off the line early in the second half. So while the defense didn't get scored on, they still did have some mistakes that you don't want to be seeing from this squad.
Yeah, it's good to see that they didn't give up a goal after the 80th minute. That's also optimistic to find out that, that a lot of the pressure there at the end of the game was in City's end. So good to see the back line hold firm and Berkey to get that clean sheet.
Yeah. And honestly, the big thing there is that almost all of the really dangerous moments in the game came in the first 60 minutes or so. After about the 65th, 70th minute, the 70th minute is when the Prince Owusu goal was called back for him being offsides. After about that 70th minute, there were no big moments for Montreal. And while we name him, let's talk about the big scoring guy for Montreal, and that is Prince Owusu, because we talked about Ivan Jaime, first start for the new designated player. Prince Owusu, by the numbers, I think is the best non-designated player in the entire MLS. And other than an offsides goal, they were able to really hold him back. Henry Kessler and Falu Fall did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two guys, I like their makeup. I like the way that they actually control the back line. Kessler being hurt earlier in the season kind of gave that back line not a really clear identity. But now with Fall in the mix and Kessler healthy again, I like those guys. I like the makeup to what they can do later on in next season, and see how we can keep on translating that into a good dynamic duo on the back line.
Big game tonight from Marcel Hartl. He got the hockey assist on the first goal, whipping the cross into Klaus that he eventually turned into the little pass to Conrad Wallem. And by the way, for fans out there, if you don't know, I call it a hockey assist. I don't actually need to, because the MLS does give hockey assists. So the MLS gives out secondary assists, much like hockey, without actually tallying it as a secondary assist. So Marcel Hartl, by all the rules, should have both a goal and an assist from today. He's been fantastic. I got in a little Twitter tiff this week with some fans who don't think Marcel Hartl is designated player quality. What are your thoughts on Hartl after a big game like tonight?
So he's turned it around for me. I've actually started to like Hartl, especially over the last several weeks, especially with Leuven back in the mix. I was not a fan of him initially. That shimmy after every set piece, that little whatever dance you want to call that, it drives me absolutely crazy. When I'm in my season ticket seats and I'm in the back, I'm thinking, let's kick the damn ball. What are we doing here? Stop shimmy. It's like the Jack Parkman shimmy that drives all those fans crazy. So it's absolute. I didn't like that necessarily, but the fact that now Leuven's taking some more set pieces and they're mixing it up in that degree, and he's performed very, very well over the last several weeks. So I starting to turn my attention to him in a favorable spot, not necessarily in a big wolf spot. I'll tell you that right now, Rock.
And also another big game tonight, Edward Leuven, and really with Edu, obviously he's got so much to deal with off the field. And for me, the not being able to play, I think it affected his play on the field. Just being rusty. Tonight was a clear game where Edu, he knocked off a lot of rust this week in training, because he was shifty. His feints were where they needed to be to open up space. His passing was pinpoint. Edward Leuven, I know he's been great, but every week he gets a little bit more in soccer shape, and that greatness takes another level, takes another step. And I think that's what we saw tonight from Edward Leuven.
And just his calmness with the ball. When the ball's on his foot, you don't feel any sort of pressure. You're not like, oh no, is he going to give it away? Is he going to give it up? He always makes a smart play. After the inaugural season, I knew that this guy had it, and I fallen in love with him and his attitude, his makeup. He's not one to milk the clock. He's not one to give up. And him and Berkey are kind of two peas in a pod in that makeup in regards to wanting to play the game the right way, which is why I think a lot of City fans enjoy their style of play.
You talked about playing the game the right way. You also mentioned earlier the unselfishness from João Klaus. Very unselfish for Klaus. He picks up 2 assists on this game because it's the first play. Hartel again gets it in with the cross. Then Klaus gets the really deft pass, puts it right on a tee for Conrad Vollum for that first goal. And the second goal, the transition moment, Songbin Zhang centers it for João Klaus. And then João Klaus, the little behind the one leg move to get it to Hartel, who obviously then finishes. What a game from João Klaus with the 2 assists.
Well, and even the non-goal to Pompeo, Celio, where Celio just totally whiffed on it. You look at Klaus and he's throwing his hands up like, I'm trying to give all these guys on the score sheet, and he can't get everyone on the score sheet. So, yeah, kudos to João Klaus. The Sandal Klaus is absolutely, after a lackluster beginning of the season, it's been really good. So. Just
wrapping bows right on the present, shuffling it right along. And here's a big thing. We talk a lot about Klaus, the hold-up play, the way he gets everybody else involved throughout a game. He's done that this year. If you look at his expected goals, his expected assisted goals numbers, he does that this year. But the assists haven't been there. He came into this game with 0 assists in the MLS in this season. And so for him to pick up 2 of them, that just shows you, first of all, it shows you the skills of Klaus, but it also shows you why people like me will hamper on the expected goals, the expected assists kind of thing, because you could see 0 assists from Klaus this year and say, well, he's not a playmaker he thought he was. And yet finally he gets 2 in one game because both of the really key passes he sets up, both of them end up being the ball is end up in the back of the net. This team's so bad at finishing. There have been moments where Klaus has created just like he did tonight, but there was no goal from it. The difference tonight in so many ways, not just for Klaus getting the assist, but for St. Louis City getting the win, the difference, people finished the opportunities that were put in front of them, especially when we talk about volleyball on that first one, because his next 2 or 3 did not go too well.
No, it did not. Looked like Tito out there trying to score goals against his 5th grade bunch. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, he shanked 2 or 3 pretty bad ones, but he scored the first one, and that's all that matters. And also, the conversation about who's been playing right back has been very big in St. Louis. A lot of people want to see Thomas Totland, and I can't blame them. He's been very solid for St. Louis City. He's had defensive mistakes. He's had big offensive moments, but he's here next year. Conrad Vollum, as much as we would love him to be, based on, probably isn't going to be here. Maybe they pick up the price tag on Vollum. I'm not sure if that happens. He was brought in here to play for a different head coach, and now you still have the loan to buy option. So will they bring in Conrad Vollum? I'm not sure, but that's up in the air. So I understand why people want to see Thomas Totland. But when you see that play from Conrad Vollum, that's the exact reason why he's playing. Thomas Totland is a right flank player. That's where he's going to play. Conrad Vollum playing a little bit out of position at the right back spot. He's going to naturally want to drift inside for a moment. And what happens on that play? He gets the ball down the flank, but then in that moment, as Hartel goes wide, he cuts inside, underlapping from Marcel Hartel, and it makes the entire play. There wasn't a single defender from Montreal within a 5-yard area of Conrad Vollum because he took a spot on that run that Montreal wasn't expecting, because right backs usually don't make that run. That's exactly why Conrad Vollum has been getting the starts over Thomas Totland. And why does he keep getting the starts? Because he hasn't made a big mistake on the back post. Until that happens, and if he keeps creating like that, he's going to keep getting these starts.
Yeah, and those crosses that he's been delivering over the last several weeks too have been dynamite too. So you talk about needing to finish and needing to have good balls, to the middle for our playmakers to capitalize on. He's always dangerous with those crosses, always, really, really, on point. And as long as we can get some finishers, I think that's why, to your point, that's why he's getting those starts and that's why he's getting those minutes.
Obviously, we're positive tonight because it is a 2-0 win for St. Louis City and Montreal. And if you want to get into the chat, please do right here on STL Sports Central. Jump into the YouTube chat. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the bell button on the YouTube so we can keep doing these wonderful shows that you like to jump in on. Tito, this is the first time we're having you on the City Central Postgame. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. You've talked a lot about looking forward to 2026. So for you, let's go into a little bit of the look forward fan corner here. What is keeping you excited as a season ticket holder for 2026 for St. Louis City SC?
Oh, geez, I don't know what's keeping me excited. I'm not too optimistic. I think this ownership group needs to actually, find a coach and actually hold firm on this coach, not just rifle through coach after coach, and actually get a sporting director that isn't in love with, either Bundesliga or second Bundesliga players. Just because someone's from Germany doesn't necessarily mean you need to throw boatloads of cash at them. Okay, yeah, maybe they should re-sign Roman Berkey and get him back into the mix next year, and actually get that camaraderie back, get some of the fan base back engaged. But if they don't hit on this next head coach, this is year 4. You should not be rebuilding after year 4. Don't give me this nonsense that way. We had a good first season. Last season was dreadful. This has been even worse. So you need to actually hit a rock star of a home run on the sporting director play as well as on the head coach play. And why the hell do we call it? What is Critchley even called, the caretaking manager? What a big wolf rock. That's an absolute terrible. That's a terrible term, and I'm not even going to stand for it. What a garage league this is.
He was only the caretaker manager, I think, for the first 5 matches. He's been the interim head coach since then. They gave him a bump up when it appears, I think, that they weren't going to immediately hire a new coach.
Okay, all right. So that's why. So it was caretaking because they thought they were going to hire another person.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That makes a little bit more sense to Tito. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to what they can do, and like I said, hopefully they come out with a big time splash at the head coach. I think what John Hackworth is probably the favorite to become sporting director, and I think he's got the pulse of the city, and knows what the city wants and what the fans are wanting to see, when they go back to Energizer Park.
Eggplant emoji. Any word on Lutz's replacement? They're still working on it. I think we're not going to see it before the end of the season. I think we're going to see it probably in the last 2 weeks of October, because they need to get somebody in, because there's a lot of decisions to be made as they go forward, a lot of contracts to be decided on, and to your point, you mentioned them spending a boatload of money on German players. I think the issue with a lot of fans is that they haven't really spent a boatload of money on anyone. And so I think, honestly, if they're going to spend a boatload of money, I'm not going to worry about what the flag says on the player profile. At this point, St. Louis City bringing in a high-profile, big-name player, wherever they're from, would be a big move and would be a huge sign to this fan base.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen. I mean, the ownership group hasn't shown that need to go out and make a splash. We haven't seen Josh Sargent. I mean, it's a few rumors about, but
things have changed though. But my point is that when the sporting director changes, and when the new sporting director isn't focused on it being a designated player team instead of a remember some of those quotes that were very early on. I didn't think they were going to be a big deal. I think in the end that mindset ended up being a big deal.
Yes, that's a good call out. Absolutely, that's probably a spot on take, and that's why you're the expert. That's why you're the SCO media member that has got the credentials.
Now,
I'm just a fan.
Now, I don't listen. Josh Sargent, just people. I know you want him. I know Swansea, Illinois. We if you throw a lasso 50 miles and if it hits a soccer player, we claim them. I get it. We want Josh Sargent. It's not a realistic thing right now, because if you go through all the designated players, the best players in this league are guys who have been bought for 11, 12, 14 million. A big play tonight was Abu Ali with the Columbus Crew getting his first goal. Not a lot of teams are going to be able to do the Hongmin Sung $22 million for a player. And that's what Sargent's probably going to cost around him. Maybe $18 million. Maybe you could get him for $18 million, but he's scoring right now. So I don't see that happening. Yes, expect this team to spend $6, $7, $8 million, because that's the kind of price tag that every MLS team is bucking up right now. But Josh Sargent, just don't set yourself up for disappointment is all I'm going to say. Just don't set yourself up for disappointment. Wait till he's 28 or 29. There's no reason for him not to get one more big contract in Europe before coming back to the United States. That's what's best for Josh Sargent. And again, spending $20 million on one player, it would be fun. I don't even know if that's the best move for St. Louis City.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. That's what my brother keeps on talking to me about too. He's kind of the prototypical, soccer expert in our family anyway. But I will tell you too, if you're a USA soccer fan, you probably don't want Sargent in the MLS right now as it
exactly.
Is anyway.
Thank you.
So you should also be playing with the best players in the world over in Europe, and so yeah, Tito talking about getting Josh Sargent into play, that's kind of like the pipe dream. But yeah, later on would be more prudent. Maybe Precky's available. Maybe Precky or Slow. You can dig Slovo up. Maybe you get him, or I know Daryl Duran is around, so maybe he can come out and be the player coach.
We didn't get into a lot on this channel, but like there was a lot of people who were angry that Matt Turner came back to the MLS. There were a lot of people who were angry that Paxton Aronson agreed to a transfer from Frankfurt to the Colorado Rapids. There were people who are mad that these players are playing in the United States now. You want Josh Sargent in the 4-month window before the World Cup to be playing in the United States? I want him cutting his teeth against the best players in the world. Exactly to your point on that one, Tito. Samuel Howe, will we have money after Berkey? So here, the thing about Berkey is you don't got to pay a transfer fee. That's nice. He's in the building. You just got to sign him to a contract. And do you sign him to a big enough contract that he's a designated player? Probably not. That would be a pretty fat contract without any transfer fee to just go straight to designated player. I would expect him to be a TAM level player. So, we're talking still probably about, $1.5 million, almost $2 million. That's fine. My expectation for St. Louis City SC in this winter window is at the most is about a $10 million budget, because I think it makes sense for them to spend an average of about $3 million on 3 moves. And so one of those moves based on term and salary, one of those moves could be a DP. A second one of those moves could be a U22. And then a third of those moves, maybe it's just a regular contract. Maybe it is a TAM level player like Roman Berkey. That would be a lot of money to be spent. And I know, again, people are wanting $20 million spent. If they spent $10 million like that, this team would be deeper. This team would be better. This team would be set for 2026 and the future with the spine of this team. Edward Leuven, Falou Fall, the goalkeeper, another 6 potentially. This would be establishing this team through a strong base, which is what the point of this next offseason should be. And here's the thing. A lot of people want big-name players like Josh Sargent. They are going to be turning over a lot of the supplemental roster in the bottom half of the roster. In my opinion, and David Critchley talked about how the Heat in St. Louis just this week can be impactful and how being in St. Louis can put a strain on your roster. They should be making almost all of their moves this year from MLS veterans, people who understand what it's like to play after traveling across two time zones, people who understand what it's like to play 1 week in Seattle, 1 week in Florida, another day in Dallas, a third time in Chicago. Players who know that kind of hardness. You need more people like that. To your point, I want MLS players filling out the depth. But to your point, when we talk about these 3 big names, a 6, a left back, an attacking player, let's just say it's those 3 moves. One of them needs to be outside of the normal window where St. Louis City has gotten players, which to your point is, I'm done with Europe for now. I'm done with Australia. Have fun going back home, JGR. We'll maybe see you back. You're young. You got a lot of talent. We'll see. Go to South America. If you go through rosters in MLS, I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but just going through rosters over this last week, we're talking about 3 or 4 South Americans on every MLS roster, except for St. Louis City SC, which has 1.5 in my opinion, because the Brazilian we have, or one of the Brazilians we have, does not speak or only speaks Portuguese and Italian. He doesn't speak any German in João Klaus. So we have one German in João Klaus, and then we have Celio Pompei, who grew up there but played collegiately, in college in America. So we kind of have 1.5 total South Americans really off the top of my head. We have a Colombian in Morales, but he's also German, I think, actually, come to think of it. So we don't even have we don't have any South Americans. So to your point, get some people outside of Germany, specifically go to South America, get some of those players there, and then fill out the rest of the roster with MLS veterans. That's what I think is the 2026 plan for St. Louis City SC. And it would give people some excitement, but also it would cover up a lot of the injuries that annoyed so many people this season.
Yeah, but it would also be nice to see some academy players or some City 2 players that actually come in and actually and have an actual legitimate chance. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened to Miggy Perez. He was here in the first half of.
He'll be up next year. He'll be up next year. I'll be confident about Miggy Perez. He has grown physically like an inch. He's put on a lot of muscle. He's playing great with St. Louis City too. I'm not saying he's going to be an impactful player next year, but there's no reason to think that Miggy Perez isn't a solid bench player throughout next season for St. Louis City too, as he continues to grow. He's so young. He's so talented. There's so much more. I know people hate this word. There's so much more runway for Miggy Perez. Don't give up on him yet. He's there. They called up 3 players for the first team in the last few weeks. Mekhi Joyner, Brendan McSorley, and Seth Ontweek. All three of them played tonight. That's some positivity with seeing the future for St. Louis City on the field right now.
Yeah, but we need to see more of that. And to your point, also in regards to the MLS free agency, veteran MLS, I'm not. Is St. Louis a destination spot for those type of players? And maybe it is because of the history. But that's where the academy really comes into play. That's why you have to really sink your teeth into there and develop from within, because you're not going to get the top tier MLS free agents. I don't think you're going to have those guys wanting to play with Messi. They're going to want to play with, who's that fraud up there in Vancouver that keeps on taking money from
Mueller.
Mueller, however you say his name. So I think developing the academy and seeing some of these guys actually start to contribute. Been a big fan of Mekhi Joyner while he's been up here, but I definitely think building from within is also very, very critical.
It's so important to St. Louis City SC, and obviously when you have this late start they do compared to so many other people, these people are slowly getting the build. Right. People are coming up. The 2010 class, I know that means they're 15 years old right now, but the 2010 class legitimately is incredible. If you look at the U.S. roster that just came out from that year, there's a St. Louis City player in all four parts. There's a St. Louis City defender, goalkeeper, midfielder, and attacker, all playing in the United States men's national U15 right now. So that 2010 class, I know it's far away, but it is coming up, and that should show you that when this team actually has a player in their academy since 10 or 12 years old, they know what they're doing with developing this club. And we know what we're doing here on STL City, St. Louis Sports Central. It works out if you call it STLSC, but still, St. Louis Sports Central, we know what we're doing when it comes to our gambling, and that is coming up on December 1st, Missouri. It got to get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when we go live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings you everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action. All right from your phone. When we officially go live in Missouri coming up on December 1st, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. You just need to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code STL Sports right there on your screen to grab $300 in bonus bets, which is a $5 bet when we go live on December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. That actually will wrap it up for us, Tito, because the Fighting Illini just finished absolutely just giving it to Western Michigan University 38-0. So we got to give it over to the Illini guys and their post-game show as they break down another football post-game show right here on STL Sports Central. Tito, thank you so much for tapping in today. You were fantastic, my friend.
Thanks, Brock. It was always a pleasure to see you, St. Joan of Arc alum. Have a great rest of the evening, buddy.
Thank you very much, Tito. Again, coming up now, it is going to be the Illinois postgame. Stay tuned right now on the STL Sports Central YouTube. And, of course, Cardinals game coming up after that for that postgame as well, as they are fighting it out with the Brewers. This has been the City Central postgame presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, where the crown is yours. Thank you to all the chatters. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll be back next week with another St. Louis City Central postgame.